Is there a weirder first overall pick in recent memory than Alexis Lafreniere? It might be hard to remember looking back, but at the time, he was seen as a better prospect than Jack Hughes or Rasmus Dahlin. Well, he got drafted first overall in 2020 and was immediately buried on an insanely deep New York Rangers team.
From the regular season, the New York Rangers franchise record.
He had some moments, but the player he was supposed to be when he was drafted first overall, an elite cerebral playmaker who gets after it along the boards, just hasn't come to fruition in the NHL. We're in year number 6 now, and after countless trade rumors, countless bust allegations, and after he grew out a pretty decent muzzy, it's decent, it's not great, but it is decent, we have a pretty good picture for who this guy is in the NHL. And I want to especially break some of what I've been hearing about this guy. So, is Alexis Lafreniere on his way to superstardom? Or is he just another New York Ranger who can't fulfill his destiny? That's actually kind of harsh. This guy might be the best forward on the Rangers right now. Laf's on pace for over 50 points while maintaining the highest WAR of anyone on the Rangers. It's not bad for a 24-year-old, especially on a group that's been pretty miserable all season. The recent first star of the week nod is icing on the cake for what's actually been a super strong second half of the year for Lafreniere. He picked up 5 goals and 7 points in 4 games last week, playing the 2026 Lafreniere brand of hockey, getting involved on the forecheck and finding open ice without the puck. Even the biggest Laf haters have to admit this guy has a great feel for the game. He is unreal at timing his routes and finding the soft spots on the ice. This is one of the main reasons this guy was coveted so much in his draft year. His hockey IQ is off the charts, and even when the physical side of the game isn't there, the game sense always has been. That's why Lafreniere worked so well alongside Panarin. Working off a guy like that isn't as easy as you would think. I mean, it's not impossible. He's a 120-point scorer. He's going to find you when you're open, but you still have to get open. Right out of the defensive zone, the puck's on Panarin's stick. Lafreniere darts up for an outlet pass, pushing the Sens defenseman back, but Panarin decides to take it up himself. So, Laf anchors at the blue line, hoping to take advantage of the massive gap in coverage he helped create. Panarin with the perfect pass, Schneider with the smart activation, and that's a Rangers goal. It's not just about finding open ice. The routes are unreal around the net, and in my opinion, that's been one of the most noticeable parts of his game these last few weeks. After the switch, he's getting lost by going deep behind the net, set the screen, get the tip. Laf's tipped and deflected goal stats make him look a bit more like a net front player than anything else because of how well he times his routes. This has actually brought him into a net front power play role at times this season with Chris Kreider not on the Rangers anymore. But when he's not in the net front, he makes a play like this, circling out of the zone to get lost in coverage. And to be fair, I'm not entirely sure how you get this lost in the slot, but hey man, I mean, Philly's a mystery right now and the timing's perfect for Laf. This off-puck movement is a big part of why Lafreniere has been such a prolific scorer in the NHL. His 5v5 goal scoring since moving on to Panarin's wing a couple seasons ago is really good. It's top 6 winger good. It's as good as a first-line sniper on a good team good. He has a quick, heavy snapshot, and working off an elite playmaker means that New York has gotten a lot of even-strength goals from Lafreniere. Still, when Panarin was really buzzing in the offensive zone, it's been pretty clear that Lafreniere's role in New York was to get into the net front. Panarin was driving a motion offense, and the keys to every single play were in his hands. It's just a more consistent offense to let Panarin drive the bus while Laf sets screens and battles for pucks to regain possession. Panarin was Shaggy driving the bus, Laf was Scooby-Doo who helped solve the clues. But before we go any further, I want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is a stock media subscription with a near infinite amount of high quality assets from B-roll to animated background to effects, all accessible without slowing down your workflow. I've always cared about presenting some of the information and data in these videos in as nice a way as possible. That's why I use Storyblocks. It's an absolute cheat code. There's 2.5 million videos of stock footage, 220,000 animated backgrounds. Like, look how many options there are. Are you a red and blue gradient fan? Maybe you're more into the silky red waves, more polished look? Or how about the elegant backgrounds? Well, you don't even really have to pick because Storyblock gives you unlimited downloads so you can compare and contrast as much as you want. Everything is human made and all integrates into Premiere and After Effects. Licensing is clear and royalty free. Once you download it, you are good to go. Sign up using my link on screen or in the description, and for a limited time, you'll get 15% off any annual plan. Okay, so you come in as a hot first overall pick, but you just don't get any real opportunity in the first few years of your career. Your most common line mates are other rookies looking to figure out their game. But it's your 4th season in the show now, and you're finally getting consistent minutes with this team's superstar, Artemi Panarin. The only problem, he's a left-wing playmaker. You are a left-wing playmaker. So what do? You and the coaching staff adapt. You're now a right-wing puck hound. Weird. But I was surprised to see how effective Laf has gotten in this role. After looking under the hood at the analytics this season, Lafreniere has some insane metrics along the walls and in puck battles. InStat has him as having the 3rd most won puck battles of any forward at even strength. That's impressive for any forward to be up there, but Lafreniere is a winger. Traditionally, the best puck battling metrics tend to lie with centers because they simply have more choice of when and how they want their battles to go. Wingers are more often than not forced into a battle in the offensive zone where they're usually outmanned. The only other wingers in the top 10 in puck battles won per game are Kirill Kaprizov and Josh Doan, 2 players with unbelievable compete and heavy sticks. But this hasn't been the case with Lafreniere throughout his career, especially on a night-to-night basis. And that's where head coach Mike Sullivan has pretty much dialed this guy in. Sully's one of the most respected coaches in hockey, coming over this season from Pittsburgh where he won back-to-back cups coaching Sidney Crosby and, of course, coaching the gold medal winning US men's team at the 2026 Olympics. Not a bad look. Where Sullivan shined over the last decade, albeit with the help of Sidney Crosby, was turning fringe NHL players into great top-of-the-lineup contributors. Turning a guy like Brian Rust, a 24-year-old with a career high of 11 points, into a top liner who's averaged a 70-point pace over the last 6 seasons. I love Brian Rust, but I don't think his mom, dog, or God he prayed to ever thought this guy would be a point-per-game NHL player when he was drafted. Now, it helps that the tactics under Sullivan teams tend to be pretty simple. 2-1-2 forecheck that wants bodies near the net front and a lot of work done down low. So that means there's usually an extra man in the battle with Laf, but he's also in a lot of battles. Say what you will, Lafreniere has adapted and has become someone you would love to have on the forecheck. Ultimate teammate kind of guy. Now, wingers typically have the least amount of work to do defensively. The coverage compared to a center or defenseman is generally a lot easier for a winger, except for the 5 or so times a game when a winger has to make a high pressure play up the wall inside their own blue line. These are make or break moments that look routine, but a mistake here is one of the fastest ways to speedrun getting benched. Laf has been pretty great here, and his soft touch has helped a lot. Even when his clear doesn't work and the puck's kept in, he's been so responsible re-engaging and making sure his mistake doesn't escalate. That was a bar. Great sense for how to improve the condition of the puck, and that's why overall, Laf's defensive game has literally never been better in the NHL. I think the puck battling work is a major part there, and I think Mike Sullivan is to thank. After chatting for a bit about Lafreniere with Rangers reporter Johnny Lazarus, he mentioned consistency as a major issue shift to shift. Now, that's a hard one to figure out because if you're not the number one option and on an offense as anemic as New York the last few seasons, maybe you could make the case that Panarin on his line was holding him back from being the number one guy. Well, great timing. About a month ago, Panarin got traded to LA in a pretty sad turn of events. When he signed in New York, he definitely thought he was going to be a cup winner one day. For Lafreniere, it's bittersweet. You lose the greatest teammate you've ever had and a guy who honestly seems like a pretty good hang, but as the Rangers core has crashed and burned into a lottery team, trading your vets is probably the best thing you can do. Especially since you have a guy who's been kind of edging everyone about whether or not he's actually going to be sick in the NHL. Without Panarin, we finally get to see Lafreniere run the offense in New York as a primary facilitator. So how good is Lafreniere at playmaking? This is supposed to be the moneymaker for him. He's setting up teammates off the rush, walking guys every other game, sliding up on Petit Cootie 2002's Instagram story off the 8-year extension. There's 2 levels to his playmaking game. I think one of them is much more developed than the other. In zone, Lafreniere has proven he's got the chops to be a consistent playmaking aficionado. He's behind the net a lot, working the puck low to high, and especially with the development in his forechecking game, we're seeing him as a bit of a one-man unit, creating turnovers and setting guys up. He's got a bit of the Panarin in him when he's on his horse, wheels around his zone and finds those east-west passes, but it really doesn't feel like his primary focus anymore. This season, almost all of his assists have come from below the face-off dots and from the right side. Compared to previous years, it feels like a part of his game that's grown into a pretty steady source of offense when he's activated. That's why I think Lafreniere could easily become New York's best playmaker while playing this grittier style game under Mike Sullivan. All three zones has Lafreniere in the 92nd percentile for in-zone shot assists, which is a great sign, but the other side of that is that Lafreniere's rush offense doesn't seem like it's going to be anything special in the NHL. Mind you, no one in New York is selling jerseys because they're playing super sick hockey this year. You can't say enough times New York is a graveyard, but still, Panarin was able to generate at an elite clip off the rush. So I'm not pretending Lafreniere is bad off the rush. When he's feeling it, he can be the main driver behind a goal. Bring it back to the off-puck movement part of his game. Look how he takes up the open ice, and he found that 2-on-1 before anyone on the Leafs did, and that's why New York scored here. But these are situations. He reacts to situations well. He doesn't create situations. Over and over, I've seen skating cited as a weakness for Lafreniere, and yeah, I mean, that is part of it. His separation of lower body to upper body just doesn't seem that strong. It's like he's either skating hard or thinking of a play, one or the other. I think this is why he looks flustered at times. After stringing a nice play or two together, he's got a tendency to put a little bit too much on a pass it too quickly, or try something safe to hold on to possession. Laf does have great hands and it's created highlights, no doubt, but his on-puck shot creation and playmaking is just not elite. It's like he thinks one step ahead, but not 3 steps ahead where McDavid might. Laf wants to pass, but Heineman's making it way too obvious he wants to steal, so he pulls it in, but instead of continuing a possession where Panarin might run the zone motion offense, Laf dishes it off at the first chance, and that's offside. His dangles and highlights are usually safe. It's like he only uses his hands when it's the last resort. He wants to pass backdoor, but shit, there's a stick on the ice, gotta make a move to get out of this jam. Why don't you do that move to create instead of escape? Now, this is where the elusive New York Rangers player development comes into question. There are a lot of great parts to Lafreniere's game, but pre-draft, the stick handling and high-risk, high-reward playmaking was supposed to be the most dominant part of his game. Spending the first 6 years of his career in a veteran-heavy system that didn't give Laf the freedom to get creative means that even now, at 24 years old, he just doesn't feel comfortable making a high-risk play. Being creative requires a bit of a leash. It's the NHL. The best playmakers are going to turn the puck over the most because they know the math. If Cooch can get 100 assists, I don't care if you get a couple giveaways. Lafreniere only having 45 giveaways is almost an indictment on his play. It's not a highlight. Cautious, low-risk hockey from a guy who can think the game as well as anyone on the ice. That's a problem. And that's where we're at today. With the 2 top prospects in this draft being left wingers, Gabe Perreault breaking out into a great left winger for the Rangers right now, and Mike Sullivan as the coach, it does seem like going forward, it looks like we know who Lafreniere is. A grinding scorer with a great mind for the game, a potential top-line right winger for the Rangers for the next decade. At 24 years old, it really doesn't seem like he'll ever be a superstar the way he was supposed to be when he was drafted, but every few months we do get a feel for what it might look like. I do want to make it clear, the Rangers were not in an easy spot here. When Lafreniere was a teenager, the Rangers had the best power play in hockey, a President's Trophy winning team, and a core that was expected to win a cup before they missed the playoffs. You can't just shove a guy onto the top line when he's not performing. But to get reps in as a playmaker, you do need to fail.
That I've seen in a long time. Wow. And that includes Sidney Crosby. Wow.
Who knows what the Rangers' internal year-to-year projections were, but from the outside looking in and with the benefit of hindsight, it just makes no sense how they thought this guy would suddenly become a superstar one day if he wasn't getting those minutes. And when you see what Jack Eichel did in Vegas, it definitely hurts to think about the super team that could have been built with Lafreniere's trade value. Maybe you, I, or he wishes this had all been done differently, but with the retool in progress and the keys to this franchise basically in Lafreniere's hands, I just can't help but think we just wrapped up chapter 1 of a story that is going to go on for a whole lot longer. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.